This area was inhabited for about 1,000 years, as near as we can tell, and was depopulated somewhere around 1300 AD, which incidentally coincides with a period of massive drought in this area. So it's assumed that that is the main thing. And, you know, some of the settlements on here seem to have been kind of off and on. But one of the things that disturbs me a little bit about Mesa Verde is that it's a mesa. This is a giant table of stone sitting up above beautiful fertile farmland below. Now, if you were choosing a place to settle, places that are very common in history are things like rivers, fertile river valleys. You find a place where it's fairly easy to live. That's a major priority, is growing food. But another major priority is staying safe. And things like rivers are potentially dangerous. If you live next to a river, then let's say it's a river in France or the Netherlands, that means the Vikings can come and get you. So maybe that's not so good. If you live by a river, maybe you need some walls. But if you're going to put a settlement not on the farmland, but on top of a flat mountain, to me that screams a need for defense. And then if that's not enough, and you build settlements or apartment blocks on the sides of the cliff, farming on top of the cliffs, on top of the mesa, and then going and building your home on a sheer cliff face where you have rope ladders and handholds pecked into the stone. To me, that says life is precarious not because the elements are out to get you, though the elements are always out to get you, but because you're afraid of people being out to get you. And that kind of history is just somber to realize that this is potentially, I mean, I'm speculating here, this is all speculation, but the mesa and the cliffs to me say life is very uncertain because we're worried about other people doing bad stuff. You can't have, it's very hard to live under the threat of potential violence. I don't know. It says that they pecked holes. It says that the people carved handholds in the rock.
Really?
And also that they used ladders.
I was gonna say these pregnant ladies are making it over there.
Right?
Castle!
Castle?
Castle!
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 What is it?
Castle!
Castle.
Castle!
Castle.
Castle!
Isn't that cool?
Castle!
This is Fort Deseret. This fort was built in less than a week by 2 teams of 96 men working 24 hours a day as a response to the perceived threat of the Black Hawk Indian Wars. I'm not going to push too hard on this because, you know, it is a state monument, but this is almost 2 feet, 18 inches, almost 2 feet of clay and straw reinforced together with these cedar posts all along it. And if I was to push on this, it's not going over. I mean, this is the kind of wall that could keep me out. And if I spent the time trying to crawl over it, presumably they would know from the guard towers here and here. I don't know whether this fort was ever used. And to a certain degree, it doesn't matter. What this fort says is that the people who built it were convinced that their lives were in danger and that they had better have a fort now to protect against that threat. I don't know if it ever saw action. I don't know if arrowheads are stuck into the wall somewhere that some archaeologist is going to find someday. I don't know. But what I do know is that you don't build a wall like this unless you had what you thought was a very compelling reason at the time. That fact alone tells me about the socio-political, cultural situation going on here. It tells me about the fear of the Black Hawk Indian Wars. It tells me about, you know, the sense that we need a place to protect ourselves and we need it now.
You only build a fort when someone's shooting at you, man.
Yeah.
Until then, you're like, okay, I need to plant my crops, otherwise I die.
Yeah.
I would like some shelter so I don't freeze to death in the winter. Oh, somebody's shooting at me. Oh, wall, where's my wall?
At that point, you really ought to have the wall already. If you look at a lot of old castles that were transitioned into more of a palace, manor home kind of style, a lot of the original arrow slits were expanded to turn them into full-blown windows because the emphasis has been taken away from defense and the security need is not quite as visceral anymore. This insight has made me feel really appreciative anytime I drive past a building that's mostly made of glass at the raw amount of security that I enjoy. And visiting castles has made me realize that that isn't always a given, that sometimes life has been very much more uncertain than it is for me right now. So, a little bit of awareness of how vulnerable I am mixed with a lot of gratitude for how blessed we are to live where and when we do.